there audio yet?
No. So these headphones normally work?
Yes.
Oh, there it is.
We have audio?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me go back to the other view and see if we have audio. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, it was delayed. It's there now.
Okay, sorry. We're working a few bugs out of the audio. Give me 1 sec, and we should have it corrected. Okay, my setup's messed up. I gotta reconfigure some stuff. But whenever I try going to my other camera, we lose all the audio. So we're probably just gonna stick to this camera here, and I'm gonna make you guys motion sickness when I move it around. But this engine I took apart a couple weeks ago in a live stream. It's got 250,000 miles on it. Timing chain was junk. The vehicle was burning quite a bit of oil. The spark plugs were oil fouled, and it had a slight piston slap. So the customer, he drives it to a quarry. He doesn't want to take his nice truck there. He's like, let's go ahead and put the money into it, even though the truck's really worn out. So we're rebuilding it. We're doing this one in-house just because it's a friend of ours, and the local engine shop is booked out a month or so. Surprisingly, the crankshaft was all in spec, so we did have it polished up. My engine guy said it was all in spec. If it was me, I probably would have just got a reground crank that came with bearings, but he mic'd it out, said it's good to go. So I'm going to slap some new bearings in here, and I guess I'll go ahead and plastic gauge it just to make sure, because I don't feel like micing the whole thing. And I'm going to move the camera here in a second and focus in on the work that we're doing. And if you guys have any comments or questions, Valerie's helping me tonight, so she'll be over at the workstation relaying that stuff to me. And is Dick back in here watching?
It shows 2 viewers. One of them is voltage drop diagnostics.
Okay.
But I don't see, well, I can't see the viewers until they comment, but no.
I haven't heard in the chat, did Keith get that Lexus up and going? I got my phone muted at the moment. But these bearings, and I think the title is probably wrong on here too. Does it say Astrovan in the title? I don't know. I think I might have to find something other than Streamlabs to perform this work. But the Toyota bearings, let me zoom you guys in, and then I'll go from there.
Dick's here. He says the camera thing is pretty cool. I don't think Keith ever got back to the Lexus. And just so you know, while you're setting that up, don't forget you have that black square from where you were trying to do multiple screens. So just for your setup, so you know you have a black.
Okay. And Dick had a question on something earlier that I missed.
Yeah, before you ended that first stream. There's something about one of the carts behind you, maybe?
So if you want to put that in the comments again, I'll try to answer that. So on these Toyota bearings, the bearing that goes in the engine block has that groove in it and a hole. They also have a tang right there that lines up with these cutouts on the block. And these are standard size bearings. The crank supposedly mic'd out good. My engine guy did that for me and polished it up.
Yeah, it says Astro Van.
That's okay. When we were taking this engine apart, it said snap-on scanner questions. So, if you want, you can maybe open up the web browser to YouTube and edit that title, if it'll let you.
Okay, hold on a second. Dick says when you're done with that, I got 4 F550s. Any new motors and 1 split clear in half?
Yeah, I'm okay. What vintage are those? 7.3s or 6 liters, or are they newer than that?
Oh, he said, I just wondered if your snap-on tool cart had all big drawers.
No, actually, probably can't see that. Let me just tilt the camera over there real quick. I put the big drawer that's normally on the bottom up to the top because that's my socket drawer, and my socket tray with sockets on it doesn't fit in any of those drawers, so I just move that one up top because that's the one I'm in all the time. And then we'll put some assembly lube in there.
Walker says, hey, Indiana here.
What's going on, Matt? You were here, I think, the last time we took this thing apart. But we're going to try and put it back together. This is Cleveland 77 bearing assembly goo. I'm about out of it. A gallon jug has lasted me like 5 years. Okay, I'm going to set this in there. Hopefully, oh, I can't do that. I got to put the thrust washers in there.
Dick says, I think there are 6 4s.
I've got 5 4s and then the 8, but I don't have any of the shallow drawers in there. I've got 5 4.
I'm going to edit the title.
Oh, wait, I should have unpackaged the thrust bearings beforehand.
While I do it?
What's that?
Oh, it's not. I mean, it's letting me open it up to edit it.
Okay.
Sorry, what's the title of it again?
Toyota 22R,
Toyota.
or 22RE engine disassembly. And I just put a little bit of this assembly lube,
Redisassembly?
or reassembly, on the block here to hold these thrust bearings. And I probably shouldn't have put the the lube on these other bearings first, because I'm going to measure it with plastic gauge, and that's going to cause a slight variance in my thicknesses. I get so used to just putting these things together that I normally don't measure them.
What's this engine going in?
1988 Toyota pickup. Okay, now that the thrusts are in there, see if we can drop the crank in without knocking the thrusts out.
Dick said, that's pretty cool. I gave my real car to the kid in school when I got Mr. Big. And Matt asked, why not lubricate? Or lubricate. I don't know if that was a typo or not, because I don't know how to
Oh,
pronounce anything.
loop. I'm going to drop that bearing. I don't necessarily like the luber plate, but I don't know. I've never had any issues with it. I've just heard that it can plug up oil filters if you use too much.
So not a typo.
No.
I will read everything as is then, since I don't know anything.
And I don't know if this didn't slide in because it's a little dry, but should have went right in. All these bearings are standard. Those thrusts are not oversized. I don't believe they make an oversized thrust. Okay, there we go.
Dick said, I was talking about the motors. I think there are 6.4 or something like that.
Ooh.
Huh?
I said, ew.
They've been sitting back there for so long. Got a turbo going out on the 750. Might have to go to Chevy. Is that the stuff you crush and then measure it?
Yes, the plastic gauge is. I was just reseating my thrust washers in there. I haven't used plastic gauge since the high school auto shop class that me and Matt Walker took. I'm going to rotate this around. I need a flat surface without the hole to lay the plastic gauge on. And with my fingers, this stuff is extremely difficult to deal with. And my dog is snoring. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. So can you see that on the camera? That thing is tiny.
Can I zoom in even more on that button or no?
Yeah, we might lose audio, but I'm not sure. If you go back, we'll get it back, I'm sure.
Point at it.
It's right there, a little green line. Looks like a human hair. Is that no?
We didn't lose audio, but I can't see it on my end. Maybe they can because they know what they're looking at.
So let me try to get it on a surface that you can see. So can you see that? It's that little green line.
There's a glare on it.
We're just losing the battle here. But I'm going to put that on all these mains. And
They don't make a tool for that? That's hard even for my little fingers.
it's called tweezers. Oh, and my fingers are oily, so now it's sticking to my finger. And I don't know if it's actually plastic or if it's a wax. It's called plastic gauge, so it's probably some sort of plastic.
Dick said, I've always had to use a little lube to get them to go in.
Let's see, I
Walker
think
says, no, but I know what it is. Google it.
what, plastic gauge or luber plate? Oh. Is he talking to you to Google it? So that'll work. I'm going to put the other bearings in the main caps and then we'll tighten those down and check them. Snoring loud. And Toyota comes factory marked on the mains. So that guy's number 2. And once we put these in, we can't rotate the crank because it'll mess up the readings. Number 1. And they're also arrowed towards the front. Number 4. Maybe. probably a lot more boring if you can't see what I'm doing.
I was just thinking in my head, can you struggle a little closer?
Yeah, struggle closer to the camera so people can see my struggles. Actually, we were talking about struggles the other day in relation to YouTube videos, and people don't always get to see the struggle because the struggle isn't always something that we broadcast. This past couple weeks have been quite a struggle for me. You know, stuff not going together right, wrong parts, bad parts, not diagnosing something 100%, and you know, I got to make sure it's right for the customer. Taking stuff back apart, working late nights. So it has been quite the struggle the last couple of weeks. We got number 5. Oh man, did you guys... So, pretend I didn't do all this. Because I just put them all on backwards. Speaking of struggles, no, this is just how my week, it's a continuation of last week. I mean, really, it's just never stopped. So I'll have to redo that plastic gauge because I tightened that one down. Man.
I'm going to read this word for word because I don't know school lingo. So here we go. Let's see. Dick said, do you have the snap-on electronic torque angle ratchet? Oh, there we go. It says the snap-on tech angle torque wrench is amazing.
I got this one the other day from the tool dealer, this one back in October, and I have the 1/2-inch black one as well.
He says, I'm getting ready to give one away when I get to 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, that first 1,000 is a struggle. I just reached that a few months ago. This one here, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but there's a big scratch right there in it. It's brand new. My tool dealer just got it. I was like, oh, too bad you scratched it. And he sold it to me for a heck of a deal because he didn't want that on the truck and try to sell it to somebody else with a scratch in it. So it's practically like it was free.
Voltage Drop says, I don't actually have one, but I steal my friend who works next to me every engine build that I do. LOL.
I don't know if I'll ever get rid of my mechanical torque wrenches. Those are the mechanical ones. I still keep those in my cart at all times. And then I keep that one for torquing lug nuts on vehicles because it's way easier to set than the other styles.
Dick says, I show it in my Mr. Big toolbox. I'm going to do another tomorrow once I get all the tools out of my broke down service truck. And Walker says the new metal ones are nice.
Was that a question?
From Matt? No, he says the new metal ones are nice.
Oh.
Sorry, did my voice go up?
Yeah.
Sorry.
The new metal ones are nice.
That's me questioning my reading skills.
Yeah, I really like that new all metal one.
Voltage Drop says, well, Dick, you just gained a subscriber. I'm stuck at 880. I've been here for about a month. LOL.
Is that from Dick?
From Voltage Drop?
Really? Huh. Actually, I was around 800, and I got a shout out on the Rust Belt Mechanics page during one of his videos, and it took me about 2 weeks to jump from around 800 to 1,000, and then it's kind of kept that steady pace since then. And the center one is not labeled, but you can identify it because it's the only one without a mark on it, and it has this hole for the oil sump. Okay, let's zip these down. I actually, I've only used it a couple times. It does get into a lot tighter places because that handle is huge on the black one here. I actually just did a video on the on the Tech Angle torque wrench. Let's see, I need my torque wrench and my specs. Bearing cap bolts, 76.
Dick said, I have everyone Snap-ons made in the past 20 years.
For torque wrenches? Sorry, Bella. My dog thinks that she's getting ready to be shocked by her shock collar.
Come here. Come here.
76. Okay. Now the early Tech Angle torque wrenches, I didn't really trust the angle part. These new ones seem to be pretty accurate.
That's pretty neat. I've never seen that. How much does something like that cost?
I think, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think these ones are around 500 when they're not on sale. I think retail on this guy was like 600, 650, but I got it for $4 because it had the scratch in it.
Dick says, I have, oh sorry, wrong one. It's like going to Baskin Robbins. You gotta have one of every flavor.
Okay, now we can zip those back off and check the plastic gauge.
Matt says 310 plus 90 degrees? Question mark.
Is that what your engine's torqued to? Luckily, this old one doesn't have torque to yield bolts. So everything is just straight angles, or straight torque, no angles.
Voltage Drop says, I just seen them in the sales flyer for $489 today, I believe.
For the new metal one? Or the other Tech Angle ones?
And Dick says, that's where I found you on the Rust Belt Mechanic and his sidekick, Captain Birdon.
I screwed that one up too. Let me run that one back down. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm expecting for this motor to produce torque-wise. We should be about 1,000 horsepower and 550 foot-pounds. It's going to be the world-class powerhouse. Not really. Yeah, I got a feeling that you guys probably use bigger tools than this to accomplish that, Matt.
Dick said, I have 3 of those smaller ones that are sitting in boxes in my broken down truck.
You know, did you break down today? Because our Snap-on guy sent me a text saying he was having truck issues. He's like, let the guys know I'll be there tomorrow. Okay. I need to zoom in, I think, to make you guys see what I'm seeing.
More zoom in than I think. Oh, yeah. Dick said, torque wrench ratchets, I think I have a problem.
Okay, I think you guys can see that little line. I'm trying to keep it out of the glare. Can you see it on the screen?
Yes.
So that little round piece of plastic we just smushed in there, and then we take this chart and we see which area it lines up with. Well, that's the metric side. We need this side. So what I want is the spec is between 1 and 2 thousandths. Maximum tolerance is 3 thousandths. So if I stick that, can you see that now? I was on the wrong one. The biggest line is 1 thousandths because the tighter the tolerance is, the more it'll smash that piece of plastic. So that piece of plastic is smaller than that guy. The other end of the spectrum is 2 thousandths, and we are right at 2 thousandths. And then if it was any smaller, it'd be 3 thousandths, and we are bigger than that. So we are within spec, which is good. And let me zoom out again. Check these other ones real quick. 2 thousandths. A little less than 2 thousandths. 2 thousandths. And 2 thousandths. So our mains are good, surprising. 250,000 miles on this crankshaft. The bearings I took out were factory Toyota bearings. So either somebody rebuilt this using factory parts at one point, which I doubt, or everything was original. I'm going to wipe the plastic gauge off of here.
Dick says, the one you're using is my go-to. I wish I could get some tools that were scratched.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess if I just pulled up the website to see what the retail was. I didn't look at the sales flyer. It was cheaper, but it looks like I saved a little bit of money still compared to the sale price.
Matt says, DC torque tools. I wish you could come here. I want you to see the 95-liter assembly line.
So how close are you, Matt, to Jasper, Indiana? Because Jasper keeps trying to get me to fly out there and take a tour of their facility. My dad went out there probably 15 years ago, and they flew them out there in their own jet at that time, but I think they just fly you out commercial now. So now I'm going to pop this back out of here again, maybe. Maybe I'll just, there we go. Lift it up a little bit, squeeze some grease underneath it.
85 miles.
Do they offer tours of the facility? Because that would be pretty cool to see. Pop this thrust back to where it needs to be. Throw a little more lube on here.
Nick says, no, I have 5 Snap-on trucks that I visit 2 or 3 times a week. They don't even come to the shop anymore. I just drive to their warehouse. I have keys.
So I may have misunderstood. So you're not a tool dealer. You're a mechanic with a lot of Snap-on tools. I don't have nearly that many torque wrenches, but I don't know. I feel like I've spent probably enough on torque wrenches.
Me too.
There is another one I would like to get, but it was even more expensive. Nope, don't put those in there. A little bit of lube on this main cap to hold the thrust in place. Where's my mallet?
Dick says, you're almost spot on.
Okay, torque those one more time and we'll be done with the mains.
Matt says, I can give a tour.
Oh, cool.
And George Bonnie says, hi guys.
Hey, George. I guess since you're just joining us, George, did the title update on YouTube. Before it was showing the Chevy Astro van, but we are actually working on a Toyota today. I get that one? Yeah.
It says Chevy.
Well, no Chevy today, working on a Toyota. But I seem to be unable to get the YouTube app to update. So we're just going to make sure that this thing can spin over. Everything's nice and free. You don't want to get the whole thing put together and then find out you have a problem.
Dick says, I'm in Dallas, Texas, a long way from Indiana. The voltage drop said it updated for me, and now it says Toyota, what you wanted it to say.
Okay.
I did refresh your homepage, so maybe that's why.
Okay, I think I've spun that around enough. Everything seems to be fine. I'm going to switch the camera around because I still have to put the pistons on the rods. So a little bit of movement here. So the engine rebuild kit with new pistons costs $10 more than without pistons. So I don't see how they can make pistons for that inexpensive, but I suppose when you're buying it as a package, it's not too big of a deal. Oh, I just noticed the rings are made in Japan. That's a good sign.
Science of Diagnostics says, just made it. Sorry about the delay. Just got banned from my first YouTube channel.
What? You must have been up to no good in there.
Dick says, yes, mechanic with a lot of snap-on tools. I have a snap-on tool habit where they just let me come to the warehouse and look around and point.
Well, I seem to get a new snap-on guy every couple of years, so there's not a lot of consistency there. So, go ahead.
Walker says, less cost to store the kit.
The pistons came in a completely separate box than the rebuild kit. But, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. So, I was going to do this last night, and it just didn't happen because, for one, I thought we were missing the snap rings for the pistons. They were in the piston box. I think Valerie found them. They were at the bottom of the box. And I thought I was missing the head gasket. And we were having technical difficulties then, similar to tonight. So I'm just going to use some WD-40 to lube up these wrist pins and the rod.
Dick says, I have about 170,000 a year snap-on habit, but I don't do anything else but work. And I work on large variety of equipment, very large equipment from oil wigs to chainsaws.
Huh. Yeah, that's a very expensive habit. I'm nowhere near that. The rods have a little bump right there to indicate that faces forward. Nothing on the back side. I also marked these rods what cylinder they go in. The piston has a cutout on the top. So we're going to match those up. Since these are free-floating wrist pins, I don't need to heat the rods up. I can put these together no problem.
Smile.
Ah, crap, I forgot to brush my teeth.
Don't worry, you can't zoom in that far.
Okay, good. Yeah, this vehicle was on the schedule for one slot, so approximately 2 hours worth. I think it's going to take me a little longer than 2 hours to install the engine, so we had to make some room towards the end of the week and add it onto that schedule.
Science of Diagnostics. Val, your scanner review was hilarious. Had the entire shop dying. I have no idea why Toyota always says to heat them up. You never need to.
Yep, they go right together. I mentioned when I was taking this engine apart, when I was like 13 or 14, I worked at an engine shop on Saturdays just to make some extra money. And one of my jobs was disassembling engines. So I'd have to mark all the rods, knock the pistons out. And then after that, I upgraded to knocking the wrist pin out of the old pistons. And I think I broke almost every single piston, but it didn't matter because most of them were small block Chevys. And they were all getting bored out anyways because they built a lot of race car motors. And I never realized how useful WD-40 was until I bought a gallon of it, and now I use it on everything. I used to not use it on engine builds, but my local engine shop does it, so I'm sure that everything works out just fine for him. Most of the time anyways. One of the reasons why I plastic gauged the crank, because I remember one Toyota that he did that he measured a couple of the rod journals and they were all standard, so he called it good. He put standard bearings in it and it had a knock, and when he took it apart, one rod journal was out of spec, and luckily he still had the old bearings. Toyota had put like a 1/1000th oversized or undersized bearing in it. So they do some strange stuff on the assembly line.
Which ring focuses? The inner one or the outer one?
Is it not focused?
I feel like it's trying to focus on that drill right there, or you could just move the drill.
I'll move the drill.
It's not really blurry, but...
I switched it to autofocus when I moved it. I thought for sure. Oh, that's beeping. Okay, last one here.
Says that George says that's an awesome gig for a 14-year-old. And Dick says, man, my feed was running way behind.
Oh, like we were lagging? Is that what he means? Oh, he probably just scrolled up to present.
Matt said I can almost smell all that WD-40.
Okay, everything looks good there.
Can you take that?
Let me snooze notifications real quick. Okay. Technical discussions. Let's see. That's good. I normally don't check the ring gap either. They're all standard before. We got standard rings. I'm sure they'll be fine. We'll just go ahead and put these together. Make sure there's no weirdness here. I've never installed this brand of ring before.
Dick says, I think it's because I'm using my cell phone to comment the positive video. You're pretty fast. I wish I could get guys to move that fast during the day.
Oh man, this is going pretty slow. It always takes me longer to do a job when I'm live streaming. But then again, we wasted like an hour and a half trying to get set up.
Yesterday? Or today?
And today.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that long.
So putting the oil ring on here first, all the way down in the bottom. Make sure that there's a little wire that goes through the oil ring. Make sure that doesn't get wadded up. One oil ring goes on the bottom of that wavy ring. Snap that into place. And then different people have different ways of doing this. I just kind of rotate all of the ring openings around. Some people make sure they're exactly like here, here, and here. I just pick a spot. I don't think it's that important. They're gonna rotate around as the engine's running anyways. Some people also use a ring expander. I just kind of work them on there. I've never broke a ring going together. I've broken rings taking them off. Of course I get one stuck. But that was on a Volkswagen with the VR6 motor, and those things were a nightmare. Make sure that's good. Marking up. So this is actually one of the first motors I ever built. Not this particular one, but this type of motor. I built one of these engines in a high school auto shop.
Dick
Yeah.
says, in my line of work, everything is really big and heavy and requires a hoist to move. And Voltage says, I'm not gonna lie, I'd be afraid of being too distracted when building an engine to live stream.
Oh, I already tried putting the rod bearing caps on backwards. Yeah, if I screw it up, I'll just have to redo it.
Dick says, voltage drop, ain't that the truth? I could screw up something big time and then videotape and live stream myself doing it.
I think the risk is what gains the audience. That's why you guys are all here, right? You're just waiting for me to to screw up.
They were all disappointed when you realized you were putting them in backwards.
They're like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing at all. Or disappointed that I caught it.
Yeah, disappointed that you caught it.
So go ahead.
Matt says, I made a plate with a cutout for the rod to hang through to set the pistons on that could be put into a vise to assemble the rings. Can't really handle 40-pound piston and rod assemble though. Voltage drop says, ha, if you do, I'll let you know before you turn the key.
Yeah, part of it's just, it gets kind of boring down here at night working by yourself, so it's a little more entertaining for both of us if there's interaction with other people. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing the live streaming. Two, doing live streaming late at night when not as many people are on YouTube is a good learning experience, good way to get used to how the platform works, and try to work the bugs out of our equipment, because the last 2 times we had no audio. I think I'm going to have to quit running audio through my camera and just get a dedicated microphone. I think that would fix the audio problems.
I can hold the boom for you.
Valerie's going to boom me. So earlier, we had just closed up shop. My dad was taking our cardboard boxes next door because we have a recycling bin at our other lot. And he's throwing these boxes in the dumpster, and a car drives by, and off the roof of the car flies a wallet and a wad of money. He said it was kind of crazy. There was just money flying everywhere in the air. The wind was blowing a little bit. So he ran out in the street and picked it all up. And he came back over here, and we looked in the wallet, found the guy's address, and he lives like half a block away. So we went over to his house and gave it back. But at first we were thinking the guy was probably a drug dealer, because he probably had $300 or $400 in like 20s and 5s and 10s. But once we got over there, the guy's like, oh man, I really appreciate it. I'll bring you a free sandwich. And we're like, okay. But then I realized it's one of our Domino's delivery guys. And I order Domino's like every other week or once a week, depending on how busy I am, if I can get out of here for lunch. But I didn't recognize him because he was in some strange clothing. But it's always nice when you do a good deed and
Get a free sandwich.
get a free sandwich. Valerie was laughing when I told her that. She's like, I wouldn't trust a sandwich from a stranger.
I was just picturing him like dirty hands making you a dirty bologna sandwich or something. It's the thought that counts.
But you know I would have ate it. Oh, man.
Okay, I got a lot of comments for you.
Okay.
Dick says, it's like that they're going to the demolition derby.
Might need more information on that one. That comment was probably referring to something that I said, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I probably didn't read it fast enough. I didn't want to interrupt you. Voltage Drop says, do you get those butterflies in your stomach when you're done building an engine because you're afraid of the engine blowing up? I get horrible anxiety right before hitting the key for the first time.
Not on stuff like this. Unfortunately, I have a vehicle that I worked on last week that I have to take back apart, and it was a 23-hour job. But it was a Toyota, it was a 2GR, the 3.5 liter Highlander motor. Had a rattle on cold startup only. The service bulletin for the variable valve timing actuators, or the gears, didn't apply. So we did just the change. They were stretched out. Got it back together. The cold rattle is gone. But now, if you let the vehicle sit for about 20 minutes and start it back up, it has a rattle. And it's coming from the top end now. So it's got to be the timing gears. So I get to do that job all over again next weekend. Is there more comments?
Yeah. Matt says, I remember when this fool held a socket on an impact gun and pulled the trigger after I did the timing belt on my Neon. About shit.
I don't know who would have done that, Matt.
You?
He did it down here.
Oh.
Oh man.
Dick says, I did screw up a locomotive motor one time. I sent a piston and sleeve and the whole 9 yards to the side.
Ooh, that sounds expensive. Now, is that like a modular motor where you can replace just the portion that you damaged? Or was the entire thing kind of ruined at that point?
Voltage Drop says, yeah, that's the 2GR.
Yeah, when we called the dealership about the timing chain, we asked them about the cam gears, and they said, oh, we don't sell that many of them. But when we called back to price out the cam gears, we got a different counter guy, and he's like, oh yeah, we do those all the time. So it's like, I wish I would have known that, because I would have included it in the estimate and just replaced them while I was in there, because I didn't want to have to do a 23-hour job over again.
Dick says the feed is running slow for him.
I don't know how to fix it on my end. Like the audio's lagging, or it just keeps going behind. It still may be your connection. If anyone else is having issues, let me know. We just upgraded our internet service, so we have, I think, 400 meg down and 20 up. So I shouldn't have too many issues. And last time I tested it, the latency was pretty low.
Voltage Drop is asking, do you drop the cradle with the engine trans assembly, or do you do it in the car?
I dropped the whole engine out. I don't know if you'll hear me over the compressor. I dropped the whole engine out, but I was trying to decide if I could do it in the car this time, since I know where all the bolts are. I don't know which way is easier.
Just replace the whole modular sleeve that I just put in.
So that's good. That's better than having to replace a whole locomotive engine.
So sometimes I'll say something and 3 minutes later you get it. That might be your reader just reading messages too slowly.
Oh, that could be it too. She normally doesn't interrupt if I'm talking, and she'll let the comments pile up until I'm done talking what I'm saying, and then she'll read them all off to me.
Depending on the years, we have done a lot of years. Hey Chad, I know it's Toyota guy, that you have access to 24/7.
The problem with that car is we estimated timing chains a year ago, and they just authorized the job. I did the testing procedure that Toyota recommends it in the disassembly and in the service bulletin. And it mentioned in the service bulletin the timing gears, the bolts being loose. All the bolts were tight. I applied air, they unlocked. I didn't feel any looseness in them. They relocked. I put it all together and now I get to do it again. Unless you want to come to Colorado and do it for me, I'll pay you, really. I don't know if I can afford the airfare.
So maybe not 24/7. Science of diagnostics. You are spot on, Chad. It's all sorted. Sometimes the internet can be top waffle.
Okay, I gotta grab a couple tools and then we're gonna put these pistons into the block and check the clearance on the rod bearings. Okay, piston hammer. I've actually never used that for pistons until now. My last tool guy had that on the truck forever and couldn't sell it, so he gave me a good price on it. I think I paid like 30 or 40 bucks for it. I'm gonna move the camera to the engine and we'll put the rest of it together.
Dick says, well, the problem is when they blow out, they had a house and went through their roof to their second floor and damaged the refrigerator.
On the locomotive?
Voltage drop. You can do those gears without taking the chains off. You can do it without taking the timing cover back off.
Okay, good. I was wondering about that.
Science of diagnostics. PJ, you're screaming at the movie telling the girl not to open the door. Voltage drop. I'm trying, Chris. LOL.
Wait, am I getting ready to screw something up here? Okay, let's find number 1. Any other questions I need to answer? Am I out of frame?
No, you're in it.
Okay.
Dick says, yes, the whole assembly for the one piston is about 1,200 pounds and it went about 3 blocks.
Oh. Oh, so it hit someone else's house. I was trying to figure out how they had a house on a locomotive.
Voltage drop said, alright everyone, I'm heading to bed.
Okay, I'll talk to you probably tomorrow.
Matt is asking, why didn't y'all ever epoxy that floor?
I wish we would have, but my dad didn't want to epoxy it and then have it chip off. I think he was afraid of that happening, and then they look really bad. So it never happened. Now it's getting kind of worn out, It's also really dirty.
Science just told me to call him Chris because he's way too long. I do need to get a piece of paper and a pen and write down people's names so that I can just call them by their first names. There's normally the same people in here.
Yeah, I suppose I could have told her what your name was. Would have made it a little easier for you. A hard time reading my punch marks. Okay, we'll do that one. I can read that one. I typically don't build engines for customers, just myself. I think I've probably built 4 or 5 of these for myself over the years. And they're a pretty simple motor. Guess that's it. The piston protrusion is because we had to get the block decked, which was only, I think, 10 thousandths. I can't remember. I'll have to look at the notes. But I do have a head shim for it.
Dick says he'll post some pictures of it on his channel one of these days.
You'll have to check that out. Do you have pictures of the damage to the locomotive or to the house or everything? My time to bed notification went off.
9:30 already?
9:30 already. I have to have my phone let me know
To go to bed.
to go to bed,
Even though you don't.
even though I don't.
But it is nice though, at 9:30, all those group messages stop making noises.
Yeah, the every once in a while I do have to snooze the notifications if I'm doing something I gotta focus on or I can't have the noise. Because there is quite a few messages.
Matt asks, no oil in the cylinders?
I sprayed some WD in there. I'm not sure if I'll be pulling them back out after I check the tolerances.
Oil in that?
Huh?
That's oil in that?
WD-40? What'd you wash with that? Did you wash the windshield?
No, not the windshield. I washed one of your tables with it.
Oh, that's fine.
Well, that's not a degreaser, not oil.
Not greaser?
Yeah.
It does look very similar to my bottle of degreaser. Same
There's
color.
oil in a spray bottle.
I buy it in a gallon jug, so it's not a dispenser. I thought for sure she was going to tell me that she cleaned the windows in my van with WD-40 because we drove into the sunlight the other day and it was bad. Couldn't see nothing. And she just cleaned them. I think that's a 4.
Dick says, I got pictures of everything, as does the fire department.
So who paid for that? Did your work pay for that, or was it the railroad? I'm assuming somebody's insurance paid for it, and it wasn't a personal liabilities thing. But you never know. People try to sue for whatever they can.
Matt says 5S, everything labeled and in its place.
5S.
So it's that I'm reading everything word for word. I think I learned my lesson from last time.
What's that?
I said, you think I learned my lesson from last time?
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think any of those guys are in here.
I don't think so. I haven't seen Cody in here or Keith in here. They were harassing Valerie a little bit. Okay, flip it over again. And if they fall out, you know you did something wrong.
I was just going to say, how do they don't fall out?
Because the rings that are on there are spring loaded out, so they drag it down. So if one were to fall out, then either the rings are wrong, the board's wrong, or you didn't put rings on it. Okay, got to do this plastic gauge all over again. This stuff is very difficult for me to deal with.
You'll have to do a size comparison of your hands so people can see the struggle for real.
These aren't child scissors. They are full size.
Oh, the 5 S's. Sort, set in order, shine, standardize, sustain.
I lost one.
He says that railroad has to pay for that. It was their mistake.
So it wasn't a material failure or a workmanship issue? I'm not implying that you messed it up, but I just know how lawyers see it.
So what flew through the building? One of those things that you just put in? Is it bigger?
Yeah, on a train. So these weigh maybe a pound, so 1,200 pounds.
Holy.
So like
The piston?
the assembly, anyways.
Oh.
So I don't know how big those pistons are. They the size of my cart? I don't know. I don't have a reference.
Can you imagine being waking up to a hunk of metal flying through your house? They probably thought like a car crashed through their house.
Well, that would be more likely than a
Yeah.
than a train piston.
Gee.
Did you know that's what my grandpa used to do? Is work for the railroad company?
Yes. You told me that before.
He was a photographer, and they did high-speed photography of train testing and crashing.
See, this is why I need to write it down. Is science Chris?
Yeah.
Okay, Chris says, all right, Chad and Val, I got to bail. 4 hours until work again. I'll catch up the rest tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, Chris. See you later.
Good night. New Level Auto's here. And he says he was talking with Dixie earlier.
Oh, man. We were just wondering where you were, Keith. You just missed PJ and Chris. Chris might have still been in here when you signed in. We were just discussing engine failures and trains blowing up. So I asked PJ if he had a chance to get back on the Lexus. Is that who answered? I think so. Someone answered earlier that you haven't had a chance to get back to it. We're all waiting to find out what happened. Okay, once these are in, I'll tighten them all down and we'll check the tolerances of all the rod bearings.
Lexus tomorrow morning.
How's the weather supposed to be? I know you've had nothing but rain.
And Dick says they had a fire in the engine earlier that day. So, sent me out. I told him it needed to be replaced. They only wanted to fix one, and then engineer gets in and dropped the hammer like an idiot.
I could see that being the train's fault, or the conductor's fault, engineer. Uh-oh, Keith is watching. I probably shouldn't use impact tools to assemble this motor. I'm supposed to have one of those ratchets that you spin. That way you can feel if the bolt's binding or something like that. Pretty sure anyways. Grab my spec.
Matt asks, didn't Loto, L-O-T-O?
Did it Loto?
Didn't L-O-T-O. Question mark. Is this another trick?
It's a trick.
I'm scared to read stuff.
Where's my torque wrench?
Oh, lockout, tag out.
Oh. That must be, here it is. Yeah, that black blends right in. He must be talking to Dick.
Yeah, for the locomotive.
.51 foot-pounds on the rods. Sorry, Bella. Woke up my dog, thinking that she's going to get shocked.
Dick answered that. He said no lockout, tag out on the small railroads. This was a locomotive to a lumberyard.
Hmm. I saw them rebuilding some of the track going up into the gorge. I had heard that they were considering using that track for downhill travel only or something, because the other passes are too congested. So if they can find they used to run trains through our area all the time, but the track started getting worn out and it wasn't cost effective for them to rebuild the track. But now they're talking about running, I think it was downhill, maybe it was uphill, either westbound or eastbound traffic only as an alternative line.
I didn't hear that.
One of the motorcycle rides I went on, one of the guys worked for the railroad company, and he said that he really missed our route because the other route gets really boring because you see the same thing all the time.
So, New Level Auto is T.
Yeah.
So who was S&A? I thought...
Corey.
See, I need a cheat sheet. But he says, oh, now you torque something.
I do own a torque wrench. I mean, it's a Toyota. It probably doesn't need torqued. I could probably run it down and it'd be fine.
I say it with love.
Okay. Okay, I don't think I'll zoom in again. They want to get motion sickness. That one I smudged part of it, but
I zoomed you in a little bit on my side.
looks like we're between 1 and 1.5 thousandths on most of these. The spec for this was 1 to 2 thousandths. So I'm going to call that good. Clean that off. And we'll bolt these together for final assembly.
It says, I use a 1-inch air impact for most of my work. My day job, I sit in the truck in the AC and just supervise.
I seem to do a lot of supervising. It seems like this last week I should have supervised myself a little more.
So should this have been done during the day?
No. I'm doing this as a side, the engine rebuild as a side job. Because the engine rebuilder is too busy. So I got offered the the job, and I took it because I haven't built one of these in a while, and they're not too bad to do. Okay, let's drop these down a little bit. Nobody's knocking. My dog's on the floor freaking out because, for one, I'm beeping at her and she thinks it's her shot collar, and 2, she thinks someone's knocking at the door now.
She's so confused.
Make sure to keep those in order. I think I left them in order.
She says, who is it?
She's normally not a big barker. Kind of depends though. For the longest time, she didn't even know what a doorbell. Well, have we ever had a doorbell? She didn't. She didn't know what someone knocking at the door meant because we don't entertain very often. But my new house has had some suspicious characters roaming around. And she got kind of protective around the property and started barking at everyone that would come near. Then we put a fence up so that she wouldn't chase them out of the yard. Because we live right next to a highway. And we lost a dog previously to a car, but she, normally the dogs never leave the yard, but that one did. But she barks occasionally now. I think half the time when she goes outside and barks, she's barking at the flashing stop sign because she thinks it's brake lights.
But you're good, Val. You said it exactly the way I hope you would. And then you put a frowning face and a dog emoji. So why do you have to take those in and out so many times? Not complaining, just asking.
I normally wouldn't. I would normally just slap it together and call it good because it's normally for my own vehicle. But since it's for a customer, I want to verify that the tolerances are correct. So you have to have a certain amount of room between this metal part and this metal part for oil. And putting the plastic gauge in there and then squishing it down. The wider it gets, the smaller the clearance is because it's smashing it further. And then there's little indicators here that tells you how much tolerance you have. And race car people use their own deals. I'm just going to standard specs, which the spec book said 1 to 2 thousandths standard tolerance and 3 thousandths is the limit. So we're just going to turn everything over, make sure that nothing has gotten excessively tight, because that would indicate an issue with a clearance. Or me putting something together backwards from not paying attention.
You?
I would never do that.
Dick says, what size battery you got on that Milwaukee? Is that a 12.0?
I didn't know they made a 12. This is a 9.0. I do know when I open the package it says do not submerge in water because fire can occur. It's kind of a weird thing to say on there, but I got a new Cornwell dealer and he had this with the charger plus a free battery for $100, and these batteries are normally like 120 a piece or something. So I picked one up. Okay, all that stuff's good. Now we can flip it back over. I don't have a fancy engine stand with a handle on the end.
Matt, he says, hey, I showed Mom and Greg the teardown video the next day. They enjoyed being famous. My mom may be appearing in the comments in the future. Sorry, haha.
That's okay. I'm guessing they're back in town now, Matt? Yeah. It's all fun. That's why we do the live streams. for fun and entertainment. Let me grab a clean rag. And where's my parts cleaner?
So yeah, they had a good trip. You know what I would have tried to clean those parts with?
Huh. This? I'm just cleaning some overspray off of here. Not that it would hurt anything, since I'm going to be coating the shim and the shim saver in copper coat anyways. Now, unfortunately on these Toyotas, you can't put the cylinder head on until you sort of get the timing components in place. So I guess I'll do that next.
It says if you ever get a chance to get the 12.0, they're a little cash. He thought it should last 7 or 8 days without charging. Easy.
This one here, let me see what I'm at. I guess I'm down to 1 bar, but this is probably 10 days. I don't do a lot of heavy line stuff, so I don't use it constantly. Let's see. Got one more box somewhere.
There's one over there on the floor.
This one, no. Looking for my timing chain set. There it is. Okay. So one of the major problem areas on these Toyotas is the timing chain failing. Actually, it's not the chain so much as the plastic guide that holds the chain in place. So we have an upgraded kit with metal guides. Is there a comment?
Yeah, Matt said, see? 5 S's.
I forgot what they were already.
I'm not going to scroll. You don't remember.
I have to apply stuff knowingly before.
Words. Set in order, shine, standardize, sustain.
I'm not going to shine this up too much. Okay, this one right here is the big upgrade. So this has a metal backing that goes into the rubber guide, and that prevents the timing chain from breaking this and chewing a hole in the timing cover and filling the oil full of coolant.
No, Keith, he sure didn't.
Didn't what? Remember it?
No, he has a comment that I'm not going to read because I sounded it out first.
You're gonna have to log in with an alias because She's not going to trust your comments.
Yeah, I triple read his comments now.
Okay, what is in here? Tensioner, maybe?
Dick said, whoever thought of putting plastic inside of the motor that has oil in it is just going to break it down.
Yep. So let me grab the timing cover.
I think Chad would have been too smart to fall for it.
So I don't know if you can see that. Valerie will have to tell me if it's visible. There are some grooves in this aluminum cover.
Oh, yeah, I can see the grooves. Sorry, I thought you were pointing at something more specific.
No, the big grooves right there. That's what happens when the guide breaks and the chain starts rubbing up against that. And right here is a coolant passage. So there's probably 6 millimeters worth of material there. We used to weld these back up and reuse them because the only place you could get them was the dealership. But now you can get them aftermarket for 40 or 50 bucks. I do need to find a couple bolts. Lay out of frame again.
Dick says, I seem to have a lot of problems with forward mixing oil and coolant.
With Fords? Is that from oil cooler failure? Well, you're working on diesels. So I guess most of those are oil cooler failures. At least the ones that we see are the 6 liters. We don't see any of the 6.4s. I don't know of many of those trucks that are still on the road. We've had 2 customers that have owned them, and both of them have gotten rid of them because they cost too much money to maintain. The 6 liter was expensive, but once you put some money into it, then it was normally good to go.
And Matt wanted us all to know that he spanks himself.
I'm gonna have to hire a moderator, a moderator to watch your guys' comments.
A moderator for your moderator?
Yeah, my moderator isn't very good. Okie dokie. I don't like the bolts that they send with the new timing chain guides. I wish they would send a flange bolt like the factory one. They send a lock washer, and I just put a little Loctite on them because I don't trust them. Do these guys as well. It's blue Loctite though. I used to use red on everything when I was a young mechanic until I had to work on a car that I had put back together. And it was very difficult to get stuff apart again. Go ahead. Is there something else?
Dick said they seem to all break a year or so after I do the package. Matt says it's midnight, ... And Keith wants me to ask you, what do you give a dog with a fever?
I don't know.
No guesses?
No guesses.
Mustard, of course. It's the best thing for a hot dog. Matt says, I'm heading out. Good luck, and put some rubber on those exhaust ports on the doors.
Oh, can you guys hear them clicking? I hear it so often that
Yeah, I'm used to it too.
I'm used to it. It's like a weird thermal thing. Once it cools off outside, they just sit there and tap against the door the whole time. But noted, I'll have to put a rag in each one of them. Okay, see if there's a dot on those. I guess I could turn this so you guys can see what I'm doing. There is a dot. I think that faces down. It should, since our number 1 piston is on top dead center.
Are you just working on the end of it?
Yeah.
You're good
Do
then.
I need to point that down?
No, you're good. There's just that black square, but you're good.
Let's see. Been a while since I took it apart. That should go something like that. And I can't quite remember if I need to put this on after the chain or not, but I'll put it on here loosely and see what it looks like.
Good night, Matt.
See you, Matt. I can find tensioner bolts. There's 1 and 2. Oh, those are gross. This engine was very dirty inside.
Where'd you find work shorts at?
They're not. They're Under Armour.
Oh. I was going to say, I don't think I brought those out from storage yet.
No, I knew that I would be hot down here. It's like almost 80 degrees in the shop right now. And Thursday and Friday it's supposed to snow. Did you know that?
It's supposed to snow.
That it's supposed to snow?
Tomorrow?
Thursday and Friday.
Ah. The pip on the ring?
Hmm?
The pip on the ring? Is that?
Oh, is that what you're pushing?
No, it's a comment too, but I did push it.
Ring.
It's not the most focused right now. And Dick says lots of sirens there tonight.
Yeah, we're right next to the highway, so the hospital's on one end of town and the AMR location's on the other end of town. So they drive by here a lot. So I think that will work.
Dick says it's 90 degrees here and I've got the AC on in the shop.
I wish we had AC. We have swamp coolers because it's not humid here normally. I'll be right back. I gotta clean these bolts up. These ones were numbered. I've never used this brand of ring before, but they came with the pistons, and they had a 1 in, 2 in, and then obviously the oil ring wasn't labeled, but there was no instructions, so I assumed that the numbering went up. They didn't have a dot like I normally see. So you missed it, Keith. We had another another no audio experience. We restarted and still had no audio, and found out that when I'm using my other camera, for some reason the audio stream fails. So next time I'll probably set up a dedicated microphone, so if I switch between cameras, it doesn't affect anything. And I'm just looking at the specs.
Look at Hangouts. He put the link there for the rings. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna make a hot chocolate. You want one?
No, I'm okay. And they weren't Hastings rings, they were ITM. Now the ring box has said made in Japan. No, these didn't have any visible groove on the outside like the lower one there. They didn't have the pit mark. I didn't look for the bevel, but in the past, all the ones I've done, anytime there's writing on the ring, that goes up. And I don't think there were some notes in here. Maybe if I have one here. Let's see.
Keith says, shouldn't matter, I wouldn't think. Oh well, Japan is upside down from us, so maybe you have it, right?
Let's see. It just take care to fit the rings with the marked faces upward. So I put the numbers facing up, so that should be correct. It's a Toyota, it won't matter.
And then Nick wants to know, what do you think of the Zeus? Is it worth the money?
No, it's not. It's after buying one and owning one, it's not worth the money. I think there's some cool features about it. I mainly bought it because I wanted a Windows-based Snap-on scanner. Did Keith comment?
He says, Val, have you considered AAA?
This one's not for me, it's for a customer. The Zeus has some good features, but I am severely disappointed with the speed of the unit. Even though the primary unit, I think, came out in August of 16, it only has 2 gigs of RAM. I feel like I use more than that on average, but I typically multitask with any Windows-based device. I have had some trouble screen recording with certain programs because there's not enough processor speed, but I know Snap-on didn't intend the Zeus for that type of application. I've just been, I don't know, I've been kind of upset lately with the features and stuff that the Snap-on scanner will do. So I plugged the Zeus into a BMW yesterday. I had done rear brakes, replaced the wear sensor. I needed to reset the brake pad life, and the Snap-on scanner did not have that function in it at all. I still had the Autel scanner my brother had at his house, looking at his Lexus. So I grabbed the launch that I just bought off of Amazon and plugged it in, and it had the function built into there, and it took about 2 minutes to reset the brake life. So that was severely disappointing that the Snap-on unit doesn't have that.
Is this microwavable?
Yeah. So Toyota makes their timing chains pretty easy. Dot on the top, dot on the bottom. There's a dot on the cam gear and one on the crank. Actually, we got to do the crank first here.
Keith says you need an arsenal, no one tool cuts it.
And make sure you guys can see that. Huh.
You put it right where the black square is.
Okay, so these Toyotas, you have to get the front timing cover on and assembled before the cylinder head can go on. But you have to pre-assemble all this stuff first. So there's a dot on the bottom of the crank pulley or gear, and a mark on the chain. I left all the slack to the slack side of the chain here, or the tension side, and then line this up there, and it should all just sit just like that until I get the timing cover on and the cylinder head on.
Keith says, I'd love to hang more, but 1 car left and 3% on phone.
Okay, Keith. Stay busy and stay safe at midnight in New York. See ya. That's crazy. Could you imagine if we worked on cars? If we were open that late?
Nope.
I wouldn't get any sleep. Oh, I didn't hear it.
Can we go outside? Can she go outside?
Yeah, the front gate's open, but what's next? I need a timing cover, but we need timing cover gaskets, which we have here. There's probably a set that came with the timing cover, so I'll see whichever set is best and use that set. On one, she's outside barking at something. On one engine that I built for myself, the timing chain guides had broken. I slapped it back together. I put this bottom gear on backwards. It once I bolted the crank on, it wouldn't even turn over. So I had to take the whole thing back apart. And the timing cover did not come with gaskets, so luckily the timing chain set did. I don't know if you heard that. My dog went outside and was barking at a road cone that we put in front of our building, because otherwise customers will park right up against the building, and we've had several of them run into our bike rack. I'm not talking bad about them.
But you're not talking good either.
We have to go get the road cone out from underneath their vehicles. Still. Most of the time they back over them. And then I'm going to put some gasket dressing on these. I used to use the Permatex aviation sealer, but I find that it's very difficult to get stuff back apart. And sometimes I still get leaks with that. And it makes a mess all over everything. So this is the Permatex gasket dressing and sealant. It's kind of like the Hylomar that seems to be impossible to get nowadays. So I'm just going to coat the gasket a little bit. We'll let that set up a little bit and then we'll stick it to the engine. Oh, and if you're commenting, I can't see it at the moment. Valerie will be right back. Been talking about getting a big screen or another monitor facing me so I can read what's happening as well.
No comments.
No comments?
The last comment was Keith saying Zoom. Might have been me zooming in on you, I'm not sure.
Let's see, almost done with this. And I don't know if we'll complete this entire engine tonight or if we'll just get it short blocked and then button up the rest of it tomorrow. I was supposed to start putting the engine in tomorrow, but I'm kind of crazy on the schedule with other stuff, so it may not happen anyways. Let's see.
Yes, he had to zoom in a little on the work for viewers later. Okay, now I can go. You need to get that out. Well, on my part, that's as far as I can zoom. The rest has to be Chad.
See if we have enough light for that.
Look at the focus too while you're there.
Is that better or is that too dark?
Back a little.
Oh, because you're zoomed in.
Okay.
Is that better? Sorry for the the moving around. I guess in case you guys couldn't see that, there's a dot on the bottom of this pulley or gear, keyway up top. There's a dot up here, and then there's colored links on the chain. I just put some sealant on the gasket. I typically only do the one side, just because this is a new timing cover, and the block normally has more imperfections than the timing cover. But I gotta find a couple bolts for that.
Let's see. Looks good. Perfect. Perfecto. I'm gonna go grab Bella real quick.
Okay.
Thank you.
She done barking?
Guess so.
And I don't know where my water pump's at. I don't know if it's here yet or not. And some of these timing cover bolts go through the water pump, but we'll just have to make do. It sounds like there's somebody rev tuning their engine outside. I just keep hearing revving. Let's see, that's too long. This might not be the right bolt for this. Oh, those two bolts probably go through the water pump. I suppose I can temporarily install the water pump to hold it together. That's not right. Grab the old water pump just to hold tension on it. Put this nasty looking water pump on here. Which bolt is it? It's that one. Right there. Is that it? I thought there was two. Anyone still?
S's.
Huh?
5 S's.
Shine it?
No, sort.
I had all of my stuff sorted last night, and then the stream never happened. So I'm pretty sure the new water pump is in the truck, and that's outside. So we'll just temporarily install that dirty water pump on there, and I'll clean that back up tomorrow for the new one. Okay, another socket. Socket's missing. Anyone still here?
Yeah, Dick just commented, is that the new speed jacket?
No. I don't know if they have a new one. This one's probably 6 years old. So if they have a different one, this one's probably not it.
So you're not using your gun anymore?
I don't know, because this is in my hand.
That's me asking.
Let me see if I can find the bolt that goes down there. I think it's a, yeah, it's not an 8mm, it must be a 10. maybe not. Maybe that one does go in there.
Says FSLF NATO.
One more time.
FSLF NATO. Maybe he sat on his phone. I don't know.
I'm sure that this will go in there. But I may have to clean the threads out. And that guy doesn't fit in there either, so that's probably the same thing. Yes, it is. Okay, now we're going to run the bolts in with an impact. That is definitely the thread. Okay, so it's not the 10mm bolt.
He says it's the part number on the ratchet I saw on the one that you were using. It reminded me of this one I bought, but I forgot I had it.
Oh.
Says he'll be right back. His dog has to twinkle.
You want to type FBF80?
F80?
FBF 80.
FBF 80.
Yes. These bolts here, I just left them in the old oil pump because they are all different lengths and easily mixed up. So they're still kind of dirty. I'll just spray them off. And I do have a new oil pump. This one didn't look too bad, but same as with the pistons, it was not that much more just to get an entire new setup with the engine kit.
Isn't that dry your hands out?
Yeah, but I coated them with WD-40 earlier.
You're a funny guy.
Let's see. So this unit here is the oil pump drive. It'll go on the crank next. The spline section faces out, and you can't really get it on the other way because it has a taper inside of here. So it can only go this way. I'm going to put a little bit of lubricant on this before I install it. And I may have to tap it into place as well because I had to tap it off of there to begin with. New oil pump. Now on these guys,
Up a little higher.
there is a mark on here, and there's a mark on the inner gear, but I'm pretty sure that this is a hunting gear set. so the marks don't matter because they will never line up again. No matter how many times you turn them, it has to go around probably 100 times before it'll line back up. So I just made it back around and I'm 1 tooth over from that. So these indicator dots don't really matter. Other than you should probably run both of them facing out, because if you run it the other direction, then that little bevel will bind up on stuff. You see that?
Yeah, and I just realized I read that last comment wrong. Hold on a second, my dog wants a Twinkie. I'll be right back.
You just assumed that it needed a bathroom break?
Yeah. Well, I didn't assume a dog needed a Twinkie.
Put this gasket in here, this O-ring. And if this one doesn't cooperate, I have another one. Might need some assembly goop.
Now that Matt pointed it out, I'm very conscious of those little door things closing.
Oh. It breaks up the silence when I'm not doing anything.
Or you could talk to me.
This is transmission assembly goo. I'm just going to put some of this in the groove on the timing cover, and it will stick that O-ring in there. Once it reaches, I think 140 degrees. I don't know if it says. This bottle's really, our container's really dirty, but it'll melt out or liquefy. So it's normally used in transmissions to hold stuff together, hold ball bearings in place. But I use it on just about everything.
He says no, my dog really does like Twinkies.
Our dog probably would eat Twinkies if we let her. So I don't know if it's common in other places, but our drive-thrus, I think there's 2 different drive-thrus here in town that will give your dog a treat. So now anytime we go through the drive-thru and she doesn't get a treat, she is really disappointed. Now most people would fill this whole thing up with engine assembly lube or lubricate. I'm just going to put a little bit of assembly lube on there, and then once I have this engine flipped upside down, I will fill it up with
Up higher if you want us to see.
I'll repeat that. Most people will fill these gaps in with assembly grease, a lubricate, or assembly lube, Lucas something. I just put a little bit of lube on there just for the assembly, and then once I flip the engine upside down, I'll fill it through the bottom of the timing cover with either more assembly lube or oil.
He said, yeah, my dog's the same way down here. She loves to go to Chick-fil-A and get a treat.
Yeah, today we drove the my van, and we went through the drive-thru before we came here. My dog was waiting for me to roll down the window, but in a van, I can't roll down the back window. And we were at a drive-thru where she doesn't get a treat anyways. And as we were driving away, she was just staring at the lady in the drive-thru window like, hey, you forgot to give me a treat. So she was a little disappointed. Okay, I'm pretty sure there's a torque on this stuff. And it's not very much. We'll break out the small guy for that. Oh, calm down, Bella. It's only 9 foot-pounds. So that's one thing that's nice about this little guy is it does go down to lower torque specs. Where's my impact? That's my socket.
Says we have this German Shepherd looking Chihuahua. She goes everywhere with my wife.
German Shepherd mixed with Chihuahua?
This German Shepherd looking Chihuahua.
Oh. I wonder what it would look like if you mixed a German Shepherd and a Chihuahua.
Probably like this dog.
But would it be taller? Well, didn't your aunt have one that was like kind of long-haired?
Yeah, I think Joe's dog was supposed to be long-haired, but it wasn't or something. I'm not sure. She looks like a German Shepherd, but she is small like a Chihuahua.
Huh.
Melissa, Matt's mom. Any criminal activity going on here?
There were lots of sirens. We are on the anti-criminal task force. I've changed my ways. Do I have other ones in here? There's one. Oh, that one's already over torqued. That's okay.
Dick says, I'm really jealous of that torque wrench. Mine's about 60 miles away and I've never even opened the box.
We need like a point of view cam.
Keith says my mind is about 70.
So is that how far away from home you are? Making me kind of iffy. Are we going to reach the torque? What are we at? Almost there. I was getting nervous that we weren't going to reach the torque before something gave out. But that was a longer bolt, so it probably had some stretch to it. Let's see if this will fit in here. Some of these bolt holes accessories bolt onto, so I may not have the correct length of bolt to assemble it.
He's only 5 minutes from home.
Oh. Wait, is 70 miles away the place where you want to go metal detecting? Can you do that at night?
Less metal-y.
It seems like it'd be harder to find the object.
He said last car was too easy.
I wish I would get some easier work. You know, sometimes I like a challenge, but I like the challenge when I'm not super busy.
He says he was metal detecting tonight on a live stream.
Oh,
He'll send the link on the Hangouts.
okay. I was gonna say I don't think I found the group or the correct channel.
And then Dick said, no, I took all the trucks that have blown motors and took them to the dealership. Unfortunately for the 550s, we're looking at about $18,500 per motor, so I gotta wait a few months.
Hmm.
Sorry, it's hard to read in my glasses. Keith said, headlamps make a world of a difference in detecting at night. I still think you should do your glass detecting in our driveway. That would be a funny
Yeah,
thing.
Valerie's convinced that they need to make not a metal detector, but a glass detector. Because our new property, every time we go outside, we find a piece of glass about that big somewhere on the property. And we've lived there for 3 years?
Actually been home early, but the detecting was fun.
I think that's all the bolts I'll put in the timing cover for now, because quite a bit of the stuff will get put on with the accessory brackets. I'm just cutting the top off of the gaskets. Now, what I just realized, and hopefully I don't have to take the timing cover back off, we had to get the block decked, and I didn't think about that when I put this together, but the timing cover is still standard height. So I'm probably going to have to take that back off and machine that down. That's kind of a bummer.
Melissa says, if I watch these videos, I can fix my own car now.
Well, we don't mean for your car to break down all the time. And I think we fixed most of the stuff on the Explorer. But you guys have had some more expensive repairs done lately. You zooming in or changing it?
I'm going up a little bit. Again, I need to see your smile.
We might be about done.
Dick says, I still have my white 2018 F250 that I mainly drive for work, and then I just bought a 2019 F600 gas truck and a Toyota 2019 Tundra for the shop runner truck.
Don't walk through there, Bella.
Keith says, block decking, oh no. Who makes this piece? Beard face, is that my brother? Is that someone else?
That's your brother.
He says, go to bed.
The block was pitted. I've seen too many issues with the head gaskets blowing on these things to not question it. The machine shop, they normally don't deck the blocks, but this one had enough pitting close to, or between the water jackets and the cylinders that they took some off. So I'm going to have to take that off and have him machine that down as well. So I think I'm going to stop here tonight because I can't really go any further together because I'm going to have to pull it all back apart.
Last of the comments?
Yeah, we'll go through the last of the comments. Any questions before we end the stream?
He says, smile with those sexy legs.
I had to put a filter on the camera just to calm down the brightness.
Did you? They do look darker.
No. No.
I was noticing that the other day at the birthday dinner.
How bright my legs were?
Yeah, it kind of looked like you had socks on, but you didn't. Dick says, I own a tree service. That's what I mainly do during the day, so I'll be able to use those trucks in that business once they're fixed. The 4.6s that were kind of junk. And then Chris says, yeah, that's me. Beard face in the chat, that's my brother. Hey, Chris. And Keith says, I'm all for that block decking. Just feel bad you have to pull it apart again.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it. I knew that we decked the block, but I wasn't thinking about the timing cover difference. Now the pistons do protrude a little more than they used to, but we have a 20 thousandths head shim. A good quality one, not one of the ones that are kind of wavy, because I don't think that those seal up very good. And actually my engine guy has a contact for the guy that manufactures them for Napa, and I can order any thickness I want. So on my other Toyota truck, I have a supercharger on it, so when I rebuilt that motor I put a 50 thousandths shim in there just to correct any issues.
Dick says, y'all have a good night. I'll check you out next time you're on.
Okay, thanks Dick.
Chris says, I'm trolling the live stream. And Keith commented, hey, that's my job.
I feel like it could get ugly if we have more than one troll in here.
Chris, man, I wish I had a real question. Go ahead, Chris. You think of one.
I have a question for you, Chris. Why aren't you at home in bed, sleeping?
Melissa says, peace out.
Thanks, Matt's mom.
I almost did it. I almost read it. See, that's how you have to do it. You just have to randomly throw it in there.
Oh, man. I was trying to convince Valerie that we needed to have the webcam on the computer facing her so that you guys could see her reaction to comments.
I do make a lot of faces. I can feel it when I don't know how to say something or when I'm not sure if somebody's trying to troll me. I do make some faces. I think it would be kind of funny to have a camera
That would.
to catch that. But you can't have the footage. I'm going to use it on my channel.
It'll be on both of our channels. I won't dispute or file a copyright claim unless you go viral.
I won't file a copyright claim on you for using my face.
We decided that it might be better if I just record all of my repair procedures, and then Valerie has a separate channel where she does all the talking and explaining what I'm doing, but without really knowing what I'm doing. I think that would probably get more views than my videos.
Mm-hmm. Says now you just need someone that studied AV in school and passed.
Who put that?
Me trying to follow one of your tutorials would be a good video.
Oh, man.
When I actually pay attention, I do think I learn stuff. Chris says, I think you're both right.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so.
I'm kind of
My throat hurts from reading comments.
I'm really bummed out because that has to come back apart.
I missed that part. Why did it have to come back out?
We had this part machined down
Yeah.
because the surface didn't have the correct finish to it. There was imperfections. So they ground off or cut off a thin layer of metal.
Yeah.
I bolted this shiny aluminum part on here.
Yeah.
It's manufactured to match the original height of this part.
So now they have to trim some off at the bar?
Now they have to trim this aluminum part down.
Oh. So why didn't they just do that to begin with?
Because, for one, we ordered all the parts in after he did that.
Oh.
So, and I didn't think about it, and he must have forgot about it. So now I have to take this shiny aluminum part back off. I don't have to take the whole thing apart, just this one piece, and have him machine it down. Because if it was like a small tolerance or difference, then I wouldn't worry about it, but
Chris says I liked this video.
it'll cause issues.
Yeah.
Which
Any
Chris?
noise in the diff? My brother Chris.
No, it doesn't have any noise. Surprisingly. I thought I heard a noise once, but the front tires are chopped up really bad, and right now I have all the seats out of the van, so everything kind of echoes. So far, the rear end has been quiet. I don't like the fuel mileage in the van, so it's probably going to get lower gears put in because it has like 2-inch taller tires with stock gearing, and I think that's affecting the fuel mileage. Right now when I filled it up, it was on empty. It took 14 gallons, so I was assuming it had a 16-gallon tank. But when I looked up the specs online, it said 27 gallons. So there's probably a sending unit problem, or my van's just not equipped with a big tank. But I think it needs lower gears. And if I do that, then I'll probably put a limited slip unit in as well. Next question.
Chris just keeps saying bonus. I don't know what he's saying bonus.
He wants bonus footage.
Oh.
He wants to see the star of this show.
I don't think I can do that voice again. That was just
Come on around.
pure genius.
Come on around. Or we can flip it around over there. I'll spin you guys. Are you coming over here?
I missed what? Let me bring my phone so I can see the comments. You missed it. Missed what?
Who commented?
Chris, he put bonus, bonus. You missed it. Hey, Chris. The context was totally missed. A video with Bell Milk reading your notes. That would work. I liked this video. Bonus. I don't understand.
Is all that from Chris?
Yeah, that's all from Chris.
That explains it. And there's a lot of noise going on today.
For being 10:43 at night.
But we're gonna wrap it up here. Thanks for hanging out, you guys that stuck around for the whole thing and that joined us late. We had some that took off early, but it is very late. And I'll be back to work early in the morning. If I get all this stuff taken care of, we'll probably do another live stream tomorrow night. We have training Wednesday and Thursday night, so I won't do live streams there. I'm sure the instructor won't appreciate that. If you're in here still, Keith, we have an instructor coming in to our shop. All the other shops in town are going to come to our shop, and he's going to give us an overview of technical training that he has to offer. We don't know if he's any good or not, but he had a facility in California where all they did was high-end diagnostic work for shops, similar to what you do, but they had a shop. They didn't do mobile, but diagnostic work that no one else could figure out the problem. He said that every vehicle that came in, it was minimum $300 diagnostic fee, but they also had technician training. I don't know if they had their own facility or if they were at a college. He couldn't give me pricing, and that kind of scares me. So he's doing this first overview class for free. But I got a feeling that California pricing and Colorado pricing are kind of two different things, especially in our smaller town. I don't know if technicians are willing to, or shop owners are willing to pay what you would pay a college. So I'll find that out Wednesday night, see if he's worth a hoot or not. He was trying to interrupt me from demoing a Snap-on scanner, which I thought was a little rude, but he was trying to, he's like, oh no, like on the Snap-on truck in front of the Snap-on guy, for the Triton D8 when I demoed it for the video. But he was impressed that we had a Pico scope, so I'm sure that's what most of his training is on. And we'll find out Wednesday and Thursday night.
He says, ask the instructor. Many will be happy to do that. That's how I showed tidbits. Who's the teacher?
Doug Mueller is his name. I can't remember what his shop name was called. It might have been Tech Help or something in California. I don't know if he sold the business or if it's still in operation out there, but he moved back to Colorado to help his parents out that are elderly, and I think he kind of retired, but he said that he still has a lot of knowledge and he wants to share it.
He says he knows Doug.
He knows Doug? Is he
Or
any
he knows
good?
who Doug is.
A Doug or the Doug? I don't know. We'll see how he does. I just hope that he can offer us classes at an affordable rate because, we already have a deal going with the CarQuest here in town. If we spend over a certain amount at their store, they pay for our training at the local facility, which is 40 miles away from us. But we get 6 classes a year at no cost. So
Chris knows the Doug.
So we'll find out. If you have more details, you can put it in the Hangout group. I think the dog's ready to go home too. Oh, she didn't finish dinner either. So she's probably really ready to go home.
I haven't seen him teach yet. I know him through NATEF.
Okay. Yeah, he seems knowledgeable. We'll see if it relates. I don't know how long ago he quit teaching. The basics will be the same. I think some of the technology has changed, so he may not be up to date on the newest technology stuff.
Bye, Chris.
Is Chris leaving?
Yeah.
Okay. See you later, Chris. But we'll give it a shot. I think any training is good, but it's got to be affordable. Anything else?
No, I think Bella's ready to go.
Okay. Well, the dog's ready to go. We're tired. I can't go any further on this right now unless I grind that off myself, but it's already late, so I'll let the machine shop do it tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out and watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yep. Good night. Sorry, I'm the one that pushes the button.
Valerie's the one that pushes the button.
Now it's over.